Welcome to the Cash Flow Champs podcast, the show where we demystify real estate investing so you have the tools you need to gain financial freedom through passive investments in real estate. And now your host, Cash Flow Champs Managing Partner, Prashant Kumar.
Well, hello. This is Prashant Kumar and Paul Senior from Cash Flow Champs Real Estate Podcast. Today we have esteemed guest, Rich Fettke. Rich is the author of The Wise Investor, a modern parable about creating financial freedom and living your best life. He's licensed real estate broker, active investor, and co-founder of Real Wealth, a real estate investment group that helps about 60,000 members to improve their financial intelligence and secure passive income and obtain financial freedom. He's an author of Extreme Success and the audio program Momentum, a pioneer in the field of business and a personal coach, which is a former vice president of International Coach Federation, ICF, and holds one of ICF's first master certified coach credentials. Rich's work has been featured on TV, radio, and in print, including USA Today, Entrepreneur Magazine, and the Wall Street Journal. Rich, we are honored to have you on our show. Thank you so much for your time today.
Honored to be here. I think it's going to be a good one. Looking forward to it.
As we were discussing that, the purpose of the podcast is to see how we can inspire busy professionals to invest passively and take control of their financial lives, right? So, we will be talking about that. And let's talk about your new book, The Wise Investor, Rich. Tell us a little bit about that book, please.
Sure. It's, my publisher says I should hold up my book just for the video watchers, but it's called The Wise Investor. It's a modern parable. It's a story. It's a fictional story, but it includes real wealth lessons and real actual lessons that help people grow, create financial freedom, and, as the subtitle says, to live their best life. It's really about that. So very much in line when you guys asked me to be on the podcast. I'm so aligned with your message and what you're doing and your purpose at Cash Flow Champs that I thought it was just the perfect fit. And that's what the book is about. It's just, I wanted to tell a story that would inspire people to take action to change their lives. Basically, it tells a story of this struggling 40-something family man who works so many hours that he doesn't have time for his kids or his wife or even his life. And then he meets a wise mentor who teaches him about investing, about creating wealth, about financial freedom. And so it kind of shows his journey, the hero's journey, over 5 years. And you get to really learn through the story everything about investing, about financial freedom, all those important lessons that we've been through for so many years. And that's with the company that my wife, Kathy, and I run. We started that in 2003, and we've helped over 70,000 people create financial independence. So it's weaving a lot of their stories that we've learned into the book so it can reach more people, so they can really change people's perspective on wealth building.
Awesome, Rich. I know we directly jumped into your book, and that sounds like a great book, and obviously I'm going to read it myself. But I want to take a step back and go through the horse's mouth about the unique background. I know you started in 2003, and you have helped 70,000, members of your group to gain financial freedom. Tell us a little bit more about your background. What inspired you to come into this arena, and how have your journey been?
Honestly, it was through desperation is what happened. I was a business coach and a keynote speaker. I had just signed a book deal with Simon & Schuster. This was 20 years ago. This was for my first book, and everything was great. I was 37 years old. Kathy and I had 2 young daughters. Everything seemed great. And then I was diagnosed with melanoma, which is the most advanced form of skin cancer, which is no big deal. You can get surgeries to remove it. But after my surgeries, they asked me to do a CT scan, and they saw 4 masses on my liver. And after several tests, I met with an oncologist, and he told me that I had probably 6 months to live because they thought the melanoma had spread to my liver. So it rocked our world. Kathy was a stay-at-home mom at the time. She didn't know what she was going to do financially to make ends meet. Our daughters were 10 years old and 3 years old. So it really rocked our world. And it was Kathy who started to seek out mentors to find out what could she do for an income. And she had a small radio show in the San Francisco area. It was mostly just coaching focused, as I was a coach and Kathy was a trained coach as well. And it was focused on personal development. So she shifted and pivoted and focused on finances and creating wealth. And she had mentors on that show. As she interviewed them, she learned about real estate investing. So it was Kathy who's the one that said, I know a way to make ends meet. If you die, I know what I can do. She didn't believe I was going to die. I tried my best not to believe it either. And luckily, it was a false positive, is what they call it in medical world. The melanoma had not spread to my liver. It was just hemangiomas on my liver that looked like cancer. But once I got a PET scan, the most advanced form of advanced scan for looking for cancer, it showed me cancer-free. So it was a breakthrough, it was a celebration and all that. And it was also that curse was the blessing that introduced us to real estate investing. And Kathy and I started to invest. We did a cash out refi from our primary residence. And we went to the north of Dallas, Texas, and bought 6 single family properties. And that's what got us into real estate investing. And we had friends and family asking us, how are you living in San Francisco and investing in Texas? How is that working? And so we started to show people how to do it. And that's when we decided to form what we thought would be a small group of people to help them invest. And today that small group that we called Real Wealth back then has grown to now over 70,000 members. And we've helped our members acquire over $1.2 billion in assets to date.
Wow. What an inspiring journey. What an inspiring story. Not that it should happen to others also. I mean, it's a blessing. It's a blessing in disguise in a way. You came out well, you did, you fought well. I mean, the important thing is your mindset, I guess. You fought well at that during that time, and that probably took you out of this trauma, and both of you working together as a family and as a team were able to come out of it stronger. I mean, look at it,
Absolutely.
20 years later, 2003 to 2023, 70,000 people. That's a great, great experience, inspiring story. What do you tell your listeners, how to inspire others? I know your story is definitely very inspiring, but what are the steps that you help others take to gain what you have gained?
Well, what we do at Real Wealth is we are mostly focused on single family because that's what we know, that's what we understand, that was what we started in. It's where when we've gotten out of our lane and tried to dabble in other things, it hasn't gone too well. So we stick to our lane. We completely believe in multifamily. We've got friends who are very successful there, self-storage, mobile home parks, everything. It's wild, just the friends that we have now through real estate investing and our connections and colleagues. It's so cool to see, there's these different areas and different asset classes. And if you become an expert in one, that's when you really thrive. And I think that's where I've seen people do really well. The people who skip around and they try some single family, they try a self-storage, they try multifamily, those are the ones that usually fail. They usually screw up and have big losses. So, I mean, that's a big one, is pick your lane and get really good at it, really understand it, whether you're a passive investor or an active investor. I think that's key. And what we do is we just help people get into single family properties around the US in emerging markets, and it really get people started. There's a lot of people they're busy professionals. They move over from doing stock market investing, or they're in crypto and they want hard assets and they want something that's going to be more recession proof and inflation proof. And so that's what we help them do. And a lot of people graduate. Yeah, they keep moving. They'll put together a portfolio of single family properties. And a lot of them will kind of graduate, if you will, and say, now I'm ready for a multifamily. Now I'm ready or become a passive investor and be an LP in a syndication or a fund.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And even just about your book kind of reminded me of a book I read once, talk about the richest man in Babylon. I don't know if you ever read that book,
Oh
but
yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
have similar alignment to that. And I think it was a beautiful thing. So kudos on your books there. So let's
Thank
delve
you.
in a little bit more, Rich, in terms of, what you do, because you did make mention of it. You're helping people right around the country in terms of these single families, and that's your lane. That's what you stick to. It's working for you, and that's awesome. I came out of the single family world too, now in the multifamily world, and so I love that world, anyways, right? But in terms of somebody who, because it seems to be an easier step for many people, to start investing, like, right? So I mean, how is it? Can you delve in some more on that? How is it you help folks? Do you help them with structuring the financing? Do you kind of locate the property for them? Is it a turnkey operation that you have, that you pretty much get the property ready and turn it over to them as an investor? Can you delve into that just a little bit more so that we get a better understanding?
Absolutely. For sure. Yeah. It's like, and we don't even use the term turnkey anymore because it's been so abused and bastardized, if you will, because people say I have a turnkey property and they put lipstick on a pig, they put new paint and new carpets or something and they call it a turnkey property. But we've seen that's very far from turnkey. You have to do a lot more than turning a key. You have to start swinging a hammer after it. So what we've done is we've assembled and curated property teams and brokers around the country. They're separate companies and they go through our vetting process. And so we have two property team managers, we call them. They will actually fly out to the market. They will inspect the rehab or the new builds and really look at the area, the quality of the rehab. And they have to pass we have about an 80-point checklist that they have to pass just for the properties. Then we do background checks on the operators and on the property management. So it's really kind of a done for you type approach where these different property providers, they're experienced, they're the boots on the ground, they know their market really well. And so we're trying to create as passive as an operation as possible for our investors, where it's truly, I mean, our tagline is real estate investing simplified. So we're really just trying to simplify it for people, especially getting into their first investment property. People are scared, they're nervous, they know someone who lost money in it. They saw someone, really get crushed in 2008 and they come in fearful. What we do is hold their hand, kind of walk them through the process, educate them. All our education's free. Even to join our network is free. And so the way we're compensated is I'm a broker, so we can receive broker to broker referral fees, and those are paid by the property teams and providers to us. So it's pretty simple.
So I mean,
awesome.
this is pretty awesome that you guys have created something where, as you said, you get compensated by broker, not by the investor or
Right.
piece of the investor's pie. And investors get what they would get anyway, but somebody has already done the background work to find the properties, to vet them out, and you have spent your dime to make sure that everything is legitimate, so that investors could come in and just buy those assets, and run with them. Is that the approach, towards the end, once they buy it as their property and they handle it? Or
Yeah, they buy it. It's their ownership, and yeah, we're there to coach them and support them. But absolutely, yeah, it's really dear to our heart, because of what we went through, what Kathy went through, trying to learn it and get started. And again, this was 20 years ago. This was before there was so many amazing books and things like Bigger Pockets and podcasts like yours. Kathy's podcast was one of the first. It was one of 3 real estate investing podcasts on iTunes, because she had a radio show before Apple came out with podcasts, and she had that in 2003. And then podcasting became a thing in 2005. So I would take her little CD that she would get from the radio station, I'd burn it on my computer, turn it into an MP3, and upload it to this new thing called podcasts. So it's we've been in the game a long time. It's been really cool to see how real estate investing has evolved and how people have so much more support now than they did 20 years ago. It's really cool.
What are the challenges you faced during the early stages of this journey? You want to share some of that with our audience, Rich?
Sure. I mean, the biggest challenge is finding the right partners. There's so many people who say that they're great, that they know what they're doing, that all this stuff. And we trusted them. We came in with blind trust, and we were just like, oh, you've been doing this a while and you have these great properties. And then we'd work with them, and then we would get burned, or one of our investors would get burned. And then we would end up, dropping that referral source. And we're like, we're never going to refer to them again. But that was the most painful thing. And that's where our whole vetting process originated from, was we don't just blindly trust anyone now when they say we'd like to be a property provider at Real Wealth. We're like, okay, it's going to be about a 3 to 4 month process before we're going to even release you to our members and have you be available. And so, are you okay with that? And, a lot of people say, yeah, I'm fine with that. I'll go through this vetting process. But that was the biggest challenge, was working with people that lacked integrity, who were out for themselves and had shoddy products and service. That was the biggest lesson.
Pretty cool. And so, Rich, you're working in emerging market, of course. Those are market get ready to take off and things like that. Can you tell me how is it that you locate these emerging market? And for our audience, let them know a little bit about what an emerging market is and the benefits of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Emerging market is just somewhere where businesses are moving, people are moving, it's growing. It doesn't have to be so much an appreciating market. There's different markets. A lot of the markets that we're in are in the South and the Southwest, Southeast. So we're in Florida, we're north of Dallas right now because of all the chip manufacturing that's happening there. We're in Ohio, we're in Pennsylvania, we're in Maryland, we're in the Carolinas. So those are the markets that a lot of businesses are moving to. They're growing. And it's like the old saying, where the people move, where the money flows is where the people flow, And so it's like we kind of chase the trends. It's easy for us to find that because, as you know, my wife, Kathy Fettke, is quite the expert now on market timing and emerging markets. And she's been on CNN and MSNBC and Fox News and all this, just for her insight into what's happening in the U.S. markets, the different markets around the country. So that's kind of her strength, is she's always analyzing that data, working with her other colleagues and picking the markets first. And once she selects a market saying, this is a great one, this is where people are moving and businesses are moving, it's an emerging market, then what we do is we'll reach out, we'll look for experienced property teams and brokers in that market.
Awesome. And of course, with this market, and you're going in there, all the things happening in those markets are moving in those markets, you expect appreciation to be there. What's been your experience so your folks can benefit from appreciation and even good cash flow in those markets as well? So they probably have a win on both sides of the equation. For those guys that you service, do you find them holding on to these properties for a long time in terms of a long-term hold, like something they can invest it over a long period, or do they get them from you and take other action with them? What are the actions that your investors are taking with these properties? Are they thinking about long-term, or are they more like getting in there and maybe turning it over again? What's been your experience?
Definitely more of a buy and hold, long-term, boring investor. I guess that's what Kathy and I are, or the boring investors. So people lock in 30-year fixed mortgages on these. They put 20 or 25% down. They lock it in. Their tenants covering that, plus some cash flow. And the markets change. Vary. So it's like Florida. We had in Tampa, we refer to properties in Tampa. They had a 43% gain in appreciation over the past 18 months. It's just amazing. And then we got some other markets like in Ohio where you get maybe 6% or 7% appreciation. That's when things are good, but they cash flow more. So it's kind of like, it depends on the market. So people hold for the long term, and or they 1031 into something else. So do a starker exchange into a more expensive property, or moving, if their property appreciates really well in one market, they might do a 1031 into another market and get multiple properties.
So basically, the way I'm hearing your business model is, it's more of you helping investors find assets which are viable and which have been pre-vetted. And basically investors, you are holding investors' hands, and they are buying those assets. And now it's really up to them what they want to do. Most of them are, kind of boring investors in your language, but they do basically, they take care of themselves basically from that point onwards. But your philanthropic vision is that you have done a lot of work, which your expertise is helping investors to buy properties across the nation in emerging markets. But I mean, you do get paid a little bit from the brokers, the broker fees. But other than that, this is incredible source actually for actually any investor in the country. Rather than they struggling and trying to find good properties, they can just come to you and say, "Listen, Mr. Fettke, I'm looking for properties. Where should I buy it?" And you are there, right there, and offering them what could make them, cash flow or returns over the years. Is that a correct synopsis of what you do, Rich?
Yeah, very correct. It's exactly what we do. And, we make a moderate fee on those referral fees, but we have done a lot. We've done over 6,000 properties over the years. So it adds up. And that's half of the business. And then the other half, in 2010, we started to syndicate, but in mostly residential ground up development. So we teamed up with developers, experienced developers. And that's another story where some developers will make promises and don't deliver, but we look for developers who have 30 or 40 years experience and have multiple projects under their belt. And so we team up with them and we'll syndicate and we'll do ground up residential development that is usually sold at retail. And then we do a preferred return for the investors, and then they share in the profits after all the properties are sold.
So that the second piece of business is syndication, basically. But
yes.
But the preferred returns for investors are from day one that they invest in the deal, or when the property actually start functioning?
Start functioning, yeah, because they're building it. Because it's not like a multifamily where there's instant cash flow or coming in where you can start giving those payouts. So we have to wait until the pref comes in once the development is done or done enough to start selling properties. And once they sell enough units and make back and move into the profitability piece, then obviously the investors get their profits first as a preferred return. And then once the whole project is completed and all properties have been sold, then we look at the overall profits. And then it's usually like a 70-30 split.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just going to break one in here real quick. If you can
Sure.
just explain to our listeners a little bit. So do they receive profits from the date of investment? Is that accrued until, payments, the property becomes, active and now, payments start coming in? Is that what happens during the period of them investing upfront during the construction until when you start receiving payments, say from the tenants or when it is booked out?
Yeah, it's from the time they invest and then by the time we finish the project. So it's actually the extra little kick in the butt to get the project done and completed, because there's interest payments on that but on the preferred. So they get to that point, they get their return, it's annualized, and then after that, again, then the profit share happens once the project's completed.
Awesome. And you serve a lot of people, Rich. It's been 20 years of work here. You and your wife been going at it for a while. You must have some good stories. Share one of those stories that warm your heart, a family you've helped, and you just like the outcome of that. Can you share something like that with us, with our audience? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, absolutely come to mind. One thing Kathy does on the Real Wealth Show, and Kathy and I will interview a couple together, and we call them Real Wealth Stories, because it's like basically asking people, where were you in the beginning? What did you do? And where are you now? And it's just so inspiring. And that's a lot of those stories I wove into the story in the Wise Investor book, because they're they so touched my heart. And I'm like, I want to share this, and it's kind of so woven multiple stories into the one family in the book. But one that stands out for me is a couple that has 5 kids, and they started to invest with us, and they were doing okay. He owns a whole chain of Domino's pizza franchises, like a lot of them. So he does well financially, but wasn't really acquiring hard assets, and came to us many years ago in the early days. It was probably I think it was probably 2009, 2010. And he started to buy some of these investment properties for himself. And he got to the 20 investor loans between him and his wife. And then what they started to do is they started to buy properties with their kids. So they would put their kids on title, and they would start acquiring more properties and help them get their loans. And now all of their kids own these rental properties. So it's a family affair where they all join in it. And now they own, I think they're up to probably, I think it's 38 or 39 properties now that they own as a family. And so they've created a legacy, really. This guy who first came to Real Wealth to say, I want to buy a few single family properties. Now he's created this legacy where his kids have generational wealth because of the action they took. So that's a great one that I love.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Really cool.
So basically, Rich, I know we have talked a lot about your business model. One is to help investors. Second is the syndication piece. And we are syndicators, we have investors. I think we are reaching to a point where we can discuss, we can shoot some lightning round questions. One piece of advice that, that has changed your life, which, I mean, I have taken it, but I still want to hear it from you. One piece of advice that has impacted your life,
Oh, I would say the biggest thing, and it seems very simple, but it's very, very powerful, and it's be curious. And the reason I say that is going through coach training, and the coach training I went through was a 1.5-year process, was all about learning how to ask powerful questions. And I would do that really well with my clients, and not so well with Kathy and kids and other people and in sales and all that. And I just had this breakthrough years ago when I was like, oh, wait a minute. When I'm really curious and not assuming I know the answer or knowing what the other person's going to say or anything, or if it's a breakdown, Kathy and I are in an argument, I've just learned that being curious always serves me. And I think it's the biggest advice for anyone. If you're curious in a business deal, you ask questions and you're going to be curious about it. If someone comes to you and they're pitching a project, instead of just shooting it down right away or trying to come off and look good or whatever, you just be curious. Whether you're in a sales meeting and you're selling something to someone, being curious about what they want, what are their goals, where do they want to be in the future, being curious around that, it is the game changer for relationships, for sales, and for business.
That is awesome. Being curious and vetting your partners, I guess that was something which I took out from your earlier comments, making sure your partners whom you are dealing with, you are spending a lot of time making sure they know what they are doing.
Yeah, ask them a lot of questions. Almost can't ask too many questions.
Right. So any personal habit, Rich, which has contributed to your success,
Oh, there's so many. I'm so big about rituals. And, I have a friend who said, you should call them rituals because my name's Rich, RICH. And so, I mean, but the one that I would say has had the biggest impact, because rituals strengthen our self-discipline and our willpower. It's scientifically proven that we actually develop that part of our brain. We change our physiology. The more you do something that you don't want to do, something that takes willpower, no matter what it is, it strengthens this area of your brain around willpower and doing what's best for you. So the ritual that was the game changer for me, I started way back in 2008. I had a friend challenge me to start doing 100 crunches a day, just like sit-ups. And he was a world-class rock climber. He's like 5-time gold and national champ in rock climbing and all. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this one with you. So we did 100 days of crunches. And then after 100 days, we did it. We kept followed through on it. He said, this is great. Do you want to keep it going? And we did. And then I started to add burpees into it. I started to add push-ups into it. So to date, I have done over 640,000 crunches since then, because I do them every day. I've done over 52,000 push-ups, and I've done over 40,000 burpees over the time. And so all that has been benefited me so much physically. And it's just that little ritual that I do every day. All I do is those 10 push-ups. I do the 10 burpees. I do the 100 crunches, and it takes me maybe 15 minutes, but it's so much more than that. It teaches me that discipline and keeping that streak going. And I've seen that carry over into all different things, everything from learning a language to educating myself more about investing in real estate. All these things carry over. So that's the ritual that has been huge for me.
Well, I'm completely pumped up, Rich. You know.
Nice. You're pumped up. I like it.
Hearing all this, all these rituals, I mean, they are important. I mean, they are very important piece of part of your life. You have to take care of physical life. That physical life automatically takes care of your mental life and your mindset, and that helps you to a successful path. It's awesome to hear these nuggets from you. And we are really honored to have you on our show today. How can our folks reach out to you? I mean, how can they connect with you? How can they seek your guidance? Please share all that information if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. My book is on wherever books are sold. So The Wise Investor, Amazon's the easiest, or Audible. It's also as an audio book. So Wise Investor is a great one. And then for our company, it's just really simple. It's just realwealth.com is our website.
Okay. So through realwealth.com, they can connect you connect with you on social media. Do you offer any personal one-on-one coaching or anything else? That you have in the store. For our listeners or anything like that.
We offer one-on-one coaching at Real Wealth and through trained coaches. I work with 3 clients max at a time. So I still coach a little bit. Usually it's with higher level investors and business owners. I currently have 3 clients already, so I can't take anyone else on. But as far as something that your listeners can do that I think is really valuable, if they go to realwealth.com/assessment, we have something that we created called the Real Wealth Assessment. We created several years ago, and it's really simple. It's 20 questions that ask about different areas of your life, everything from financial to your financial team and your wealth team, all the way to your personal life and how are you feeling physically and the amount of time freedom that you have in your life. And so by the time you answer these 20 questions, you get a real wealth score. Most people who take it for the first time, who haven't done a lot of work on creating passive income or put anything into action like that, usually they score maybe 50 or 60. People that have started to put things and invest and started to put a wealth team together and take care of themselves and set goals, they'll come in maybe like around maybe a 70 or an 80. But it was our way to measure. Our purpose at Real Wealth is helping people create real wealth, which we define as having the money and the freedom to live life on your own terms. And so our team wanted to measure that. So we're like, how can we measure how many people we're really helping? And so our goal is to have over 500 people by the end of 2024 take that Real Wealth assessment and then get a score of over 80. And so a lot of times people fill it out in the beginning, they'll score maybe 50, 60. Our goal is to coach them and help them and support them to get to over 80, 90, 100. So they're really living real wealth, living life on their own terms.
Awesome. That is good stuff. Well, Rich, I want to thank you so much for joining us today on the Cash Flow Champs Real Estate Podcast. Thanks for your time. Thanks for the value and the nuggets that you dropped to our audience. Really appreciate that. And we wish you the best of luck and success, my friend.
Thank you. You guys are doing good stuff. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Cash Flow Champs Podcast. Cash Flow Champs partners with busy working professionals and entrepreneurs that want to build and maintain generational wealth through real estate. Visit cashflowchamps.com to learn more about us